to me first. It gets me before it gets to you guys. And then hopefully, it'll help us as a congregation of people that in turn we can be a help to the world that we live in. As Christians, we understand that we don't actually know the specific or the particular birth date of Jesus, but yet it's always encouraging for whatever reason that Christ is the focus. I'm encouraged by that. I'm pretty sure that you guys are too. I'd like to turn this seasonal moment. I got it on. Is that all right? I'd like to turn this seasonal moment into a lifelong lesson. The topic I chose was the gift exchange, and Darius read for our hearing that we know our Lord, He offered His life for us. And you probably on your job has been a part of some type of gift exchange, and maybe drew names, and in the office you felt, you drew a name, so you felt like, you were obligated to participate. So you went out and you purchased a gift or whatever, and you probably wrapped that gift or dedicated it for whomever. I know when Miss Curry has a gift to somebody, or she bakes something at the house, she quickly let us know. Right? Don't mess with that. Don't cut that cake. That's for whomever. Yeah. And so she dedicated it for whoever that gift belongs to. Yeah. And then like always, we when you exchange gifts, you might draw the name of somebody that you're not that fond of on your job, or that person may not be that fond of you. But kind of in the moment in the exchange of gifts, you have this renewed perception of who that person is, and so the whole office or the whole workplace is just on another level, and that lasts all up to about January 2nd. and then you back to status quo, and everybody behaving the way they normally behave, and the season doesn't mean a whole lot to anybody. Your enemies, they're not your enemies, and that person that you exchange gifts with, if you didn't like them before, you probably don't like them now, and they feel the same way about you. But our obligation and the gift exchange that was given to us, it means a lot more, or it should mean a lot more to us than what we experience on our job. And I chose for our lesson John 15:13, but the first place we're going to turn to is, I want to turn to 1 Corinthians chapter 5. 1 Corinthians chapter 5. And I want you to look at verse 14. It says, "For the love of Christ constraineth us, because we thus judge that if one died for all, then we're all dead." That same, not that same, but we had that obligation to that gift exchanger that, this person is going to buy me a gift. So I feel obligated to purchase this person a gift. In 2 Corinthians 5:14, the Bible says, "For the love of Christ constraineth us." When I think about the word constrain, I think about the word compelling or making me want to do something. Yeah. The Bible said, "For the love of Christ, it constrains." It's the motivator. It's that thing that we feel obligated to. The Bible says the love of Christ constrains us, because we must judge that if one man, but if one died for all, then we're all dead. That's a motivation, that's an obligation beyond me feeling like I got to buy you a $10 gift because you bought me a $10 gift. We understand the sacrifice that was exchanged for us. And then in Romans chapter 12, the Bible goes on to let us know in verse 1, the Bible says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God. Paul is saying, you know what? I beg of you. I beg of you by God's mercy. What was the mercy of God? God made it possible that you and I be saved. So to the Corinthians, he said it's the love of God that constrains us. In the Roman letter, he begged brothers, he begged sisters to behave in a certain way because there was a sacrifice that was made for you and I. I'm not going to turn there, but in 2 Corinthians chapter 8, the Bible teaches us that the church that was at Macedonia, that they behaved a certain way towards the brotherhood because they first gave themselves. So we have an obligation to surrender to God. We have an obligation to surrender our lives. But that example was shown way before you and I. Christ never asked us to do anything that he had done. You remember Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane? That's right. He surrendered his life. He surrendered. And it wasn't a haphazardly, it was something that he had to put deep thought into. And then when it was all over and done, he said, not my will, but thy will be done. Christ had an obligation towards us. For God, he had an obligation towards us. We need to understand that we have an obligation towards God, towards each other, towards mankind. Then we have a dedication. We need to be dedicated to others. I want you to turn back to 2 Corinthians chapter 5. I'm going to read verse 14, but then I'll read 15 along with it. For the love of Christ constrains us, because we thus judge that if one died for all, then we're all dead. And that all, verse 15, and that he that died for all, that they which live should not henceforth live unto themselves, but unto him which died for them and rose again. Also, I want you to understand this. If we can understand that one died for all, then the ones that have the liberty to live, we ought to live for the one that died for us. Our lives ought to be dedicated to Christ and to others. The Romans letter tells us to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. So we can prove what's good and acceptable in the eyesight of Christ. See, in the eyesight of Christ, Christ didn't come to earth for himself. He came to earth for us. He came to earth for mankind. That same Macedonia letter in chapter 5 or verse 5 of chapter 8, the Bible said that they first gave of themselves to God. And then in turn, they were able to give themselves to the brotherhood. They asked Paul to take their gift. They were a poor congregation, but they asked Paul to take our gift. And Paul said they gave even beyond what he could imagine that they would give. But first of all, they felt obligated enough to give themselves over to God. And then after giving themselves over to God, they were able to give themselves over to each other. Christ understood that in the garden. Christ understood, you know what? I got a will that this cup be passed. But God's will was that I go through it. I mean, which one did he choose? Father, if you will, let this cup pass. But we know, he gave of himself.
Man.
He gave of himself. And he said, not your will, not my will, but thy will be done. Brothers and sisters, that's the example that Christ left for us. And in turn, he tells us, Felix, I want you to learn of me. I want you to take my yoke. And I want you to take my burden. I want you to learn of me. I want you to take my yoke. I want you to turn to Matthew chapter 11. Matthew chapter 11. We're going to start about verse 28 or 58. The Bible says, come unto me, all you that labor and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and you shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. See, we can't dedicate ourselves sometimes to others because we're trying to carry that burden that we should be laying down, and we're trying to carry the burden that Christ wants us to carry. The Bible says, he said that his burden, it wasn't heavy. But why sometimes we find it so hard? Why we find Christianity so hard and so heavy sometimes? Other times I'm carrying my load, and my load is heavy. And then God wants me to carry a light load. The problem is, it ain't the load that God wants me to carry. The Bible says his load, his yoke is easy, and his burden is light. See, sometimes we get confused because we're burdened down, but it ain't because of the load that he put on us. It was the load that we put on ourselves. See, Christ had a load that he had to put down in order to carry the load that God wanted him to carry. That's why he can say, I do my will and your will. That's not how it works. I carry my load and God's load. See, in order for Christ to carry the burden that he had to carry of God, he had to put one down. See, you and I, in order for us to properly carry the burden that God wants us to carry, which he says is light, we got to do what? We got to put ours down. You know, we sing all the time, take our burden to the Lord and leave it there. And then sometimes we go around and tell ourselves, well, Christianity is so tough. That contradicts what Christ said. The Bible says, my yoke is easy. In comparison to what Christ had to bear, what we have to bear is easy. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. So why is it so hard for us sometimes? But we're trying to hold on to ours, and we're trying to carry his.
That's right.
Just like, exchanging gifts. It's hard for Brother Curry to buy Brother Ty gifts. But Brother Curry go buy everything he wants for himself. You know what I'm saying? It's hard for Brother Curry to fit Brother Ty's gift into his budget when everything he want to see, he buy it up for himself. That's tough. If Brother Ty come to me with his gift, one time, man, it's been tough. So I can get you a gift, man. But you know what? If Brother Curry wasn't so consumed in his stuff, he might be able to exchange gifts with Brother Ty. We have to understand that when we follow Christ, it stops just being about us. It stops. It stops just being about us. Because if we were to learn Christ, when Christ came on this earth, it had everything to do with everybody else and nothing to do with him. It had everything to do with everybody else and nothing to do with him. But if Brother Curry is trying to have everything to do about him, there ain't got room for nobody else. If I'm carrying all of my baggage, all of my load, I can't carry what God wants me to carry. We need to understand that we become Christians, we're dedicated to each other. We need to understand that as Christians, we need to have a renewed perception of mankind. Turn back to 2 Corinthians chapter 5. 2 Corinthians chapter 5. We're at verse 16 now. I'll read them all together, but we're going to focus on 16. Start at 14. For the love of Christ constrains us, because we thus judge that if one died for all, then we're all dead. And that he died for all, that they which live should not henceforth live unto themselves, but unto him which died for them and rose again. Read verse 16. It says, wherefore, henceforth, know we no man after the flesh. Yea, though we have known Christ after the flesh, yet now henceforth know him no more. See, when we have a renewed perception of mankind, the Bible says that we shouldn't know man after the flesh. Matter of fact, it was the Ephesians letter that told us that, see, when we wrestle, we're not wrestling against flesh and blood. You know, we have to see, we have to be able to see the soul of man. See, when Christ surrendered himself and he was arrested, and there he is hanging on the cross, and he's being whipped beyond recognition. He's hanging on the cross. And no doubt the same ones that were responsible for him hanging on the cross, he's looking down on them. And he could say what to God for? Forgive them. And they don't know what they're doing. See, when Christ looked at us, he looked at us as sheep not having a shepherd. When he looks at the world, he sees the world as a field that needs harvest workers. When he was hanging on the cross, he looked at mankind and they're picking at him, they're ridiculing him. He could say, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. He could see the soul of man. He could see past whatever it is that we portray on the outside. See, when you and I are dealing with mankind, you know how many times you've dealt with somebody and they've upset you. And we, although we're Christians, we understand, first of all, hurt people, you know what they do? They hurt people. Hurt people hurt people. So how many times somebody have approached you and did something, hurt your feelings, and said something out of the way to you? And we look at them with the fleshly eye, and we won't rebel back against them. Instead of looking at that person going, you know what? There's some problem. He or she, they're going through something. Now, how can I make an impact on that? How do you and I make an impact on a dying world? They cuss us, we cuss them back. Ain't gonna help. They swing at us, we swing at them back. They gossip about us, we gossip back. Christ didn't go tit for tat with mankind because he looked at the soul of man. Because if Christ went tit for tat with mankind when he was hanging out on the cross and they were ridiculing him, he could have did something about it. But what he did about it was he said he looked at him with the eye of pity and he said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. If we ever going to make an impact on the world, we're going to have to see and value what mankind is. Stop looking at the outer and the shell of people. Start understanding there's a soul in there to be saved, or there's a soul to be lost.
That's right.
And if it's anybody that's going to do something about it,
That's right.
it's the people of God. We're in his hands. We're in his feet. We're in his mouth.
That's right.
If it's going to get done,
That's right.
it'll be done by Christians. Y'all do know why that's why the kingdom is here. Thy kingdom come, that thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We don't have a choice about the matter. If Christ is to be our king and we're a part of this kingdom, we have no choice in the matter. If it's going to be done, it'll be done by the children and the people of God. The walls on there aren't out preaching the gospel. The pews, they're not out saving people. God himself isn't coming down and doing Bible study. Or God himself isn't coming down and doing a good deed to his neighbor or to his co-worker. Who does that? Who does that? We're the ones. In just in case we aren't aware of this, Brother Curry, he can participate or he cannot. But God's will, it'll be done. Brother Curry cannot do it. Brother Todd, he might be one to do it. Brother Curry, Brother Todd, they said I ain't gonna do it. Brother Manos, he may be one to do it. But God will be done. Somebody gonna do it. Why not it be us? Lord send me. Because Brother Curry, although right now he has a choice to do or not do, there's still consequences for him not doing it. We do understand it. As a body of people, we have an obligation to do some things. We have an obligation to do some things that the world has no concept about. There's people right now, there's thousands of people right now, and they're standing in the pulpit, and they're out there in the pews, and they're quoting the Lord's Prayer. I cannot know that the kingdom is already here. And you can't be a part of something that you're praying to come. You know what I'm saying? If I'm praying that such and such come, and it's already here, I know I'm not a part of it. If I'm praying for such and such to come, and it's already here, I don't understand what it is. So we're living in a world, or should be living in the spiritual realm of the world, that some people have no concept about. When you and I see people, we ought to see souls, or do we look at frowning faces? When we see people, we ought to see souls, or do we look at somebody mean mugging us, or saying something bad to us? Our perception of mankind, it needs to be proper. Because you and I, we can't bypass each other and make it to heaven. We can't bypass each other and make it to heaven. Brother Creed was doing a lesson a couple weeks ago talking about the vertical and the horizontal. You know, if you and I, if I miss this part of it, I don't care about mankind and brothers and sisters in Christ, and then I say, oh, how I love Jesus, it doesn't work that way. No more than some people that are trying to bypass Christ and make it to God. It don't work that way. If we come to God, it'll be through Christ. And if we go to Christ, it'll be because of how we treat each other and mankind. We have an obligation to each other. We have an obligation to mankind. How many times right here in our congregation that we have issues with each other and we let the issues dwell on and dwell on and dwell on and dwell on. Yet we come in here Sunday after Sunday after Sunday after Sunday and offer worship to God. How does that work? Turn to Matthew chapter 5. We're going to start at verse 23. The Bible says, in Matthew chapter 5, verse 23, therefore, if you bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then offer thy gift. How many times we come in here with damaged relationships? How many times you come in here and speak to somebody that doesn't want to speak to you? And we're going to fool each other and think we on our way to heaven. How long will we play with God? How long will we play with God? Well, God has given us. Somebody want to hear that? God has given us everything that we need to sustain, heal her, and be the type of people that He would have us to be. The question is, will we surrender to it? Will we surrender to who God wants us to be? Will we dedicate our lives for the usage of other people? Or will we start seeing people with the same eye that Christ saw? It's the soul. It's the soul of man that means so much. Our soul is valued so much that the Bible says, what profit us if we gain the whole world? And we're talking about one soul now. We're not talking about a congregation full of souls. We're not talking about a city full of souls. We're not talking about a world full of souls. The Bible said, what would it profit a man if a man gained the whole world and lose his one soul? So there's nothing in comparison to the soul of man. And that's the thing that's so valuable. And we stuck looking at the external. We're stuck looking at what's on the outer. We're stuck dealing with people by their defense mechanism. And we don't care to know that hurt people, they hurt people. We don't care to understand that bad behavior says no relationship with God. We don't care about that. We need to care a little bit more about who we are as a body of people. We need to care a little bit more about God's mission. We need to stop saying how hard Christianity is. What's hard about Christianity? Let's think about it. Here right now, for you and I, what's hard about Christianity? Got a relationship with God. As long as I have a proper relationship with God, He promises that Mother Curry will have something to eat, will have something to live, will have clothes to put on. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. I just be a member of it. And be right in it. Behave right in it. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, and all these things be added. So I got a proper relationship with the greatest being ever known to man. And that being promises me everything that I need to sustain in life. And then I walk around talking about how hard Christianity is. The reason why Christianity is hard, because it's hard trying to live in it. Well, the Curry's world, you're trying to live in God's world. That's what makes it hard. It's hard carrying my load and the light load that Christ gives me. It's hard for you and I trying to be the type of people that God wants us to be and trying to fit into our society. We're trying to fit in with a certain peer group. Or trying to be popular on the job. That's hard. There was a gift that was given to us a long, long time ago. And I want you to end with John chapter 15. What Darius read. John chapter 15 and verse 13. It says, greater love hath no man than this, and that a man lay down his life for his friend. Christ laid down his life for us. Now here's the exchange. So the title gave me his deal. Now watch this here. Verse 14 says, but ye are my friends if you do whatsoever I commanded you. See, the exchange was Christ would give up his life. And in turn, Christ gave up his life for Felix. Now, Felix in turn has to obey what Christ says to do. Who got the better end of that deal? Who got the better end of that deal? You remember the whipping, the beating? Every once in a while, my back did this, and I asked Sister Curry to strap the back, and she got a hangnail. I said, no, stop. Stop. They whipped our Lord beyond recognition. They whipped him beyond recognition. And he did that for you. He did it for me. And one day he's coming back. He's going to want his gift back. I gave you my life. Did you give me yours in obedience to me? It's all benefit for us. I hope I've said something today that would cause us to look at our lives the way God sees us. I hope I've said something today that would cause us to look at mankind the way God sees mankind. We're all in need of a Savior. The mean and hateful ones on your job, yes, they need God. You and I need God. That man or woman that's morally and ethically as good as anybody, they still need God. Cornelius was the most devout man on the face of the earth, in Acts chapter 10. And he still needed God. So whatever our case is, we need to know we need God. I hope we understand that moving forward in our lives that we need to continue to obligate ourselves to God. We need to continue to dedicate ourselves to mankind. And we need to have a renewed perception of people. Stop looking at the hour and start looking at the thing that God values. And that's the soul. There's somebody here that hasn't put on Christ in baptism, and you want to do so. We know that you come through hearing, believe, repent, confess, and being baptized. There's a brother or sister in Christ that's here, and you haven't lived up to what God wants you to live and how He wants you to live. We give you this opportunity also. That's whatever the case is, you come as we stand and sing.